success stories in Australian rock music than Jimmy Barnes. Not counting the years with Cold Chisel, he sold more than 1 million albums on his own. Yet when he left Australia last year for a new home in the south of France, he was in debt to the tune of over $4 million. Jimmy Barnes now says he's become the target of rumour-mongering and media harassment over his financial affairs after an incident with an Australian TV crew last week. He talked to us by satellite from Marseille. Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
Hi, mate. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. More importantly, how are you?
Oh, terrific.
How's the latest album going?
It's great, mate. Actually, I spent the day in the studio today, and, you know, we're sort of halfway, three-quarters of the way through it. It's sounding really good. I'm enjoying it.
Do you miss Australia? You missing it much?
You know, I've lived in Australia so long, and I feel, you know, attached to it that much. You know, I don't feel like I've left it anyway.
Jimmy, there were reports saying that you had vowed never to return to Australia. True or not?
No, I think I swore at one of the journalists saying that, but, you know, I think I might have, I was misquoted. I think I said, "You're never going to make it back to Australia," in one piece.
What actually did happen, Jimmy?
I woke up and there was a TV crew outside my house, and they'd been there since 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, filming my kids going to school and all that. And I just figured, you know, like, you know, the guys didn't have the decency to knock on my door and ask me, you know. And they came running in, you know, knees bent, you know, trying to look sort of important with the, you know, Mr. Barnes up in my face, and I was laughing. I said, "You're kidding, aren't you? You know, we're not animals here. Can we talk normal?" And you know, they kept sort of trying to shove this camera in my face. And I said, you know, basically, I said, "You are a pack of bloody animals, you know." And they, you know, they just kept going on. So it got a bit nasty. Not quite as nasty as I would have liked, but you know, I figured, you know, they're trying to do a job. I didn't want to kill them, you know. So I actually, you know, grabbed the reporter and held him up to the camera and said, "Hi, you know, this is the sort of, you know, guy that gives Australia a bad name."
Jimmy, there has been a lot said, particularly in the newspapers of late, about the real reasons why you left for France.
Mate, there's been all sorts of rumours, and the problem is that the rumours are what's caused the, you know, the most of the problems. You know, I've been through, it's well known, it's public record, it's on public record that I've been in financial difficulty. You know, my companies went in the hands of, you know, of administrators. If I was a great, you know, financial wizard, I'd probably be running the country by now, you know. I'm a rock and roll singer. As, you know, everybody in Australia probably knows, you know, there's been ups and downs, and, you know, there's a recession going on. I bought a lot of land in my hometown of Barrow at the time. You know, at the time, you know, it seemed like a good idea. But later on, you know, the property values, you know, slumped. At the same time, interest rates went up. And I don't care, you know, if you're bloody, you know, Kerry Packer. You know, you had a hard time, you know, doing it. Can I say Kerry Packer on this channel?
Sure, sure.
I'm kidding, Kerry.
Jimmy, let me just put this to rest altogether. I mean, the papers filed with the Australian Securities Commission late last year say that you owe more than $4.5 million. Is that correct still or not?
No. Listen, you know, for ages I was going through, you know, a period where I was working, you know, paying off tax, paying off, you know, the bank, and, you know, and other, you know, creditors. But I went through and I worked my ass off for years to make sure that I paid, you know, everybody off. And you know, we dealt with it, you know, that's all it was. But, you know, the thing was, it was never hidden. It was always a matter of, you know, of straight up, you know. No,
and there's no suggestion, certainly from us, that you were trying to hide anything anyway. So what you're saying is that there are no longer proceedings to wind up your company?
No, that's all finished. That's old. That's what I said. It's old news. I mean, these negotiations finished months ago, and I've been on, you know, just going on about, you know, getting things up and running again. What I do best is make music and sing, and I've been trying to do that, you know, to the best of my ability. You know, one of the main reasons I moved to France was because I'd spent, you know, you know, till June last year, I'd spent the 12 months prior to that 7 trips, you know, I've come to Europe working. You know, I wasn't seeing my kids. I wasn't, you know, spending time in Australia. I'd worked so much in Australia that I figured people, you know, needed a break from me anyway, and I needed to bring something back to Australia.
Jimmy, without doubt, you are one of the most successful rock artists in Australian history. Over 1 million albums you've sold yourself, not including Cold Chisel. How could you get into, such financial difficulties?
The tax department were very close friends of mine, even during then. It's a thing that's been going on for a long time. People don't realize that bands, they see, income, stardom, but they don't realize that it costs a hell of a lot to keep things running. I went out and I made mistakes, and I've learned from them, and I'll probably make more mistakes, but Christ, all I want to do is make music.
Could you have been accused of perhaps living too high on the hog, that you and the family perhaps lived too well?
No. Sure, maybe a bit, like anybody, you make money, you have a good time.
Yeah, and you're confident that this next album, you'll be able to work out and work off all debt?
Mate, this is, every record I make, I try and give it, everything I've got. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best record I've ever made. If it does do that, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, I'm going to keep making them.
And Australians can be fairly optimistic that you will be back in the country.
Oh, of course. I'll come back to the country when my record comes out and I'm ready to come and tour and bring something back.
Jimmy, look, thanks very much for your time. We really appreciate you talking. I know every Australian wishes you every success and wants to see you back here as soon as possible.
Thanks very much for your time, and come to France.